Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trail Pass. So today we're going to be changing the oil on a Can-Am Outlander 450, but a lot of the process is very, very similar, whether you have a 570, like the silver one back here, or the larger 650, 850, 1000 V-twins. Really, all of the Rotax V-twins are the same. There's a little bit difference here with this 450 single, but a lot of the process is the same. You still have to remove all the same plastic body panels. You're still obviously changing the oil, and you're still using the same oil change kit, or at least the same thought process for a lot of this. Now, here's a look at the tools I'll be using. This might be a little bit overkill, but most of it is either a Torx bit, a 10 millimeter, or a 13 millimeter. And I found this tool really, really helpful. I actually found this particular one on Amazon. But this one is what you use to pull the plastic little pop rivets out. More on that in a second. But if you don't have one of these tools or something similar, I would definitely recommend getting one of those. It makes the job a whole lot simpler. Now, looking at the oil change kit, these are actual Can-Am oil change kits. I know a lot of people might use Rotella or something similar for their oil, but I went ahead and went to the dealership and got their actual kits. Now, there's two boxes in front of you, and the difference is this box is for 500cc or more. This box is for 450 or less. Now, the interesting thing that I found with this is the larger engines just use 2 quarts and a little bit out of this smaller bottle. The 450 and less use 3 quarts and a little bit out of this smaller bottle. And then they both use what looks to me like the same filter and same O-rings and crush washer and all like that. But if you don't have a kit like this, like I said, a lot of people do use different oils to substitute and place these. These are kind of expensive, but in my opinion, if there ever would be a warranty issue that would come up or something like that, there's certainly no question if you use Rotax stamped oil filter and XPS BRP oil. So to get started here and to get to the oil filter, which on this 450 lives right under this round cover right here, you actually have to take a lot of the body panels off. So we're going to go ahead, take the seat off, take this piece of plastic off, take the gauge cluster off, the side panel, and the footwell here in a few minutes. Now, this is not exclusive to the 450. Moving back here to the 570, like I said, it is a very similar process. This one is actually pretty well covered up, but the oil filter actually lives right here. Not sure if you can see it, but that same round cover is right in here. So unfortunately, no matter which engine you have, you do have to take off all those body panels. But it actually does make some of the other processes a little bit easier to do this instead of fighting around it. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Now, by removing these components, you're exposing this small Phillips screw, as well as a few plastic pop rivets here for the side panel. For the side panel, there's also one plastic rivet right here and one right here. So we'll go ahead and remove that as well. So with the side panel all out of the way, you do expose a lot more of the engine, but unfortunately we still have to keep going and remove this footwell as well. So you have 10 millimeter bolts here that hold the footwell down. There's 5 of those. Then moving in here to the front fender area, you have 2 more of the plastic push rivets, a T30 Torx screw. Then moving back here to the rear fender, you have another T30 Torx screw, and actually a 10 millimeter bolt that lives way in here. It took me a long time to find this one the first time I was doing an oil change, and there's actually a nut on the back of it. So you have to come in through the front here with a wrench. You can't even see it on camera, but there is a small nut back there. You have to hold that nut and remove the screw. So I have no idea why they went with this, but you do have to remove all that to finally get to the oil filter housing here. Now, with all those fasteners out of the way, we're going to do what I think is the hardest part of this whole oil change process. And that requires reaching through here. And what you're trying to do is pop, in this case, the orange fender apart from the black footwell. So there's just three little tabs that stick in here, front and rear. And you have to kind of go along here and pinch these with your finger and slowly work them out to get them out. So with what feels like half the machine apart, it's finally time to change the oil. So first step obviously is loosen your fill plug. Definitely want to make sure you do that so you can actually get new clean oil in your machine. And now let's look at some of the differences between the 450 and the 570. So again, the oil filter housing is right here on the 450. It's 3 T30 Torx bolts to get that off. And on a 570 or the larger V-twin Rotax machines, the oil filter housing is actually right up here, but it's the same procedure to get to it, and you still have to remove the same T30 Torx bolts and remove that footwell to get to it. Also differences on the larger V-twin machines, the drain plug is actually located right here, and that's a 13 millimeter. On this 450, it's actually a 17 millimeter, and it's located directly in the center of the engine, so you have to get all the way under the machine to do that. But we'll go ahead and get started now and get some clean oil in this machine. So while that oil is draining, don't forget to look at your fill plug. There is a magnet in the bottom of it. You can go ahead and wipe that off. And another difference here is the 450 and smaller machines use this silver colored crush washer, and the larger machines, at least that I've seen, use the brass looking one. So go ahead and replace that as well. Now removing the last bolt from this oil filter housing, go ahead and pry it off a little bit. Obviously you get oil everywhere and the filter comes out with it, but there is an O-ring here that you can replace with the parts provided in the kit. Now with the new filter and O-ring installed, we'll go ahead and reinstall it and then fill the machine with oil. So it is important to note here that with the dipstick, it's only accurate if you do screw the dipstick all the way in between readings. So you want to go ahead and screw it all the way in, take it out, and then you have the accurate reading, not just stick it in the hole. So at this point, we are pretty oily here on this machine, and you don't have to. Your oil change is pretty much done at this point, but I like to go ahead and take it out, hose everything off, and maybe put a little bit of degreaser on it to get the oil residue out of the way. So we'll go ahead and do that now, and then put it back together when we have a clean four-wheeler. All right, guys, so with the oil change complete, there are still a few other things you might want to check while you do have your Outlander apart. Your air filter actually lives right here underneath the handlebars. So you go ahead and give this a small rotation, pull the cap off, and slide the air filter out as well. And it's a good thing we did check this because it is a little bit dirty. You want to go ahead and get that all cleaned up and put it back in before you start riding this machine again. Now also, while you have it all apart, there are 16 Zerk grease fittings around these Outlanders, at least the Gen 2 Outlanders as far as I know. And you definitely want to go ahead and get some fresh grease in all of those. It will help your machine last a whole lot longer. Now, if you have any questions about that, be sure to check out our other video about how to grease these Outlanders, but it is a really good idea. I've heard a lot of other people may grease theirs every single ride, and I think that kind of depends on how you ride. If you say live in the mud or in the creeks, it might be a great idea. But if you just kind of ride around the house or whatever, I don't think you really need to do it every ride, but you still might want to do it a few times in between your oil changes. So putting all the plastics back together are just a reverse of what we did a little earlier. And I think that pretty well wraps it up. So if you do have any questions, be sure and leave those down in the comment section. And thank you all very much for watching. If you have any questions about our tools, that you saw in this video or some of our other ones, be sure and check out our Amazon affiliates link. And if you do choose to buy through that link, It does help out the channel, and we really do appreciate it. So thank you all very much for watching. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Catch you next time.